The plane sat in that hangar for 15 years. And inside was something people had been searching for since 1990. March, 2005. An abandoned airbase outside Dayton, Ohio. The kind of place where the wind moves across the runway like it has a security badge and a reason not to talk. A salvage crew came to cut old equipment for scrap. On paper, a routine write-off. In reality, it felt too quiet for routine. A mechanic named Mike Carter climbed the ramp into an aging C-130 Hercules. Inside, it smelled like dust, cold metal, and time that no longer wanted to be friendly. Under the pilot's seat, his hand hit something rigid. A military dispatch case. Cracked leather. Rusted clasp. Like someone hadn't locked it to protect property, someone locked it to protect truth. Click. Inside, a photograph. Two young men in uniform, smiling in front of that same aircraft. Faces that still believed the world played fair. On the back, in faded ink, last shift. Mike wasn't superstitious. But even skeptics have a moment when their spine understands something their brain hasn't admitted yet. He kept searching. In the lining of the fuselage, he found a folded note and a few more photos hidden like the person who stashed them didn't expect to walk out through a normal door. Within an hour, Mike was talking to military police and agents who arrived way too fast for just an old plane. And that was only the beginning. Spring, 1990. This base ran 24/7. Cargo transfers. Exercises. Routine flights. All normal except for one detail: certain manifests were so clean they felt suspicious. Documents that never get dirty usually keep the dirt somewhere else. Staff Sergeant Alex Parker had been in for 3 years. He knew every corner, from the gate to the far sector where cameras stared into emptiness more often than reality. Private First Class Dylan Brooks had just arrived fresh out of training. He looked at the base like it was a movie, before he realized the genre. The night of March 14th into March 15. They went on duty. By morning, both were gone. Not late. Not stepped out. Not got held up on patrol. They vanished like the air itself signed a contract and pulled them back. The alarm was raised by the officer of the day, Major Thomas Walker, 52 veteran, strict, the type who demanded accuracy from people and from clocks. The base went on lockdown. Hangars checked. Perimeter swept. Warehouses searched. Dogs brought in. Nothing. No footprints. No bodies. No uniforms. No weapons. Only the feeling that someone on this base knew much more than they were saying. In the first interviews, Major Walker sounded confident, too confident. Like calm had been rehearsed. He said he stayed late: paperwork, logbooks, signatures. Cameras did show his car near the exit around 12:45 a.m. Parker was late to formation, the major added. I reprimanded him in front of everyone. He stood there, fists clenched. People knew Parker had changed after a tough deployment, more tense, more reactive. It sounded logical. And in cases like this, logical often means convenient. Walker said he last saw both men around 10:30 p.m. during a walkthrough. Both at their posts. No issues. He even wrote it down, *duty proceeding without incident. Star. And after that, no one saw them alive again. Then a conflict surfaced. In a nearby hangar worked a technician, Warrant Officer Mark Miller, 28. Fuel systems. Hydraulics. The week before the disappearance, he'd had a loud argument with Parker. Parker accused him of stealing fuel. Not hinting. Not suspecting. Straight to his face, "You're siphoning jet fuel, and I'm filing a report." Miller looked shaken when investigators asked him about it. On a base like this, accusations don't end as drama. They end as careers, or prison. Witnesses confirmed it. The argument was brutal. Miller snapped and yelled, "You'll regret it." They had to be separated by base security *** Captain Daniel Hayes ***. Polite face. Controlled voice. The kind of politeness that makes it easier to hide things. I was just passing by, Hayes told investigators. I heard shouting. I separated them and left. I don't know anything else. His tone was calm. His eyes were not. Like he wasn't listening to questions, he was listening to the hallway. On the night of the disappearance, Miller claimed he was alone in Hangar 5, working until 3:00 a.m. No one could confirm it. And then the strange details started piling up. In Hangar 7, where Parker and Brooks were assigned, investigators found a shattered flashlight with glass inside the building. A drag mark from the doors toward the far wall. And stains of lubricant, not standard issue. A high-grade synthetic type normally used on certain equipment that was never supposed to be routine. 200 yards away in brush, they found Parker's radio cracked open like someone used concrete as a weapon. A duty officer does not abandon comms. So either he was forced, or he wanted silence. Parker's wife, Emily, added one detail that changed everything. Around 11:00 p.m., her husband called home. His voice was tight. Short. Like someone was standing close enough to hear him breathe. He said only, "Protect our son. Whatever happens." Then he hung up. In Parker's personal items, investigators found a half-written report. The handwriting was uneven, heavily crossed out. Asterisk, I am reporting systematic theft. Warrant Officer Miller repeatedly observed, star. The text stopped mid-sentence. When Miller saw it, he went pale. He was going to destroy me, Miller said. I have 2 kids. My wife is sick. If I got locked up, my family would collapse. Then investigators checked the logs. And found a timing contradiction. Hangar duty log, Parker's mark at 11:15 p.m. Gate log, Parker's signature at 11:10 p.m. 5 minutes. But the distance between those points was long enough that even if Parker sprinted like the IRS was behind him, he couldn't make it. A forensic review concluded, one of the signatures was forged. Someone tried to build an alibi, and got sloppy with time. Then it got worse. A cleaner said she saw Major Walker's car in the lot around 1:00 a.m. But the cameras showed he left earlier. Walker claimed, I returned to grab documents. Security policy said no one entered headquarters after midnight without authorization. So he returned, to stand in darkness? That explanation didn't just sound weak. It sounded like an excuse that wanted to be believed. Investigators also found fresh fingerprints on Hangar 7's doors. Miller's. I came by earlier to grab a tool, he said. But analysis placed those prints between 11:00 p.m. and 1:00 a.m. Miller claimed he never left Hangar 5. Someone was lying. Investigators focused on Miller. Motive, fear of exposure, revenge, desperation. Opportunity, he knew the schedule. Conflict, confirmed. Fingerprints, confirmed. And then another piece surfaced. One of the photos from inside the aircraft showed Parker near the open cargo bay. Inside were sealed crates marked classified cargo. In the background, blurred, but visible, stood someone in uniform. Digital enhancement sharpened it. It was Miller. Staring at the camera with a look that wasn't just anger. It looked like panic wearing anger as a mask. Then came the money. A financial check revealed, 2 weeks before the disappearance, $5,000 hit Miller's account. In 1990, for a technician, that wasn't side hustle. That was, where did you get this, friend? Source, unknown. I sold my motorcycle, Miller said. They found the motorcycle in his garage. Another one, he tried. No paperwork. In Hangar 7, investigators also found a bullet embedded in the wall, a shot angled upward. A warning shot. 9mm. Miller carried a service Beretta M9. Ballistics tests showed his weapon had been fired recently. Residue. The smell of powder. I was at the range. His name wasn't in the range log. And then one final detail. Hidden in the plane's compartment was a short note, Written in a rush, if you find this, check Officer M. He's not who he says he is. The handwriting shook. There were bloodstains on the paper. Miller cracked under pressure. He confessed. Yes, I stole, he said. Fuel, parts. I sold them. Parker started blackmailing me. He wanted money for silence. I gave him $5,000. Then he demanded more. That night, Parker and Brooks came to Hangar 7. Parker demanded another 10. I refused. He fired a warning shot. I defended myself. I choked them. Where were the bodies? In an old well behind the base, Miller said. I took them on a truck. Then I sealed it with concrete. The case looked solved. A fight. Money. A weapon. A confession. But in March 2005, a federal cold case specialist arrived from Washington, D.C. Special Agent Maria Collins. She specialized in cases that looked too neat to be true. She demanded every file. 15 years had passed. But the technology had improved. First stop, the well. 3 miles from the base. Old structure. Concrete cap. Ground-penetrating radar showed large objects about 4 meters down. They broke the concrete. Lowered a camera. Miller stood under guard, smoking with shaking hands. I didn't mean to kill them, they cornered me. They lifted the first bag. Opened it in front of witnesses. Inside, an old uniform stuffed with sand. A mannequin. Second bag, the same. The well was empty. Miller's face went gray. That's impossible. I dropped them. I heard the splash. Collins examined the concrete. The original pour was dated 1990, but around the edges were signs of careful removal. Someone had opened it, taken whatever was there, and resealed it to look untouched. Who could do that? And why? Collins found the answer in the small details everyone else dismissed. In spring 1990, engineering drills happened nearby: explosions, vehicles, movement. Perfect cover to dig at night, move evidence, and bury it somewhere else. Which changed the question: who needed the bodies to never be found? And who had the power to do it? Miller remembered something. After the disappearance, Captain Hayes became oddly nervous, constantly asking, "Is everything okay?" Jumping at phone calls. Looking at people like he was measuring who might talk first. Hayes was called in for questioning. He arrived immediately, with his wife. "I want her present," he said. "I have heart issues. Stress is dangerous. She's a nurse, she monitors me." His wife, Erin Hayes, confirmed long-term cardiac problems. Arrhythmia. Ischemia. And one more thing, in 1990, Hayes suffered a mild heart event, right after the soldiers vanished. Coincidence? Sometimes, but in cases like this, coincidences are just truth that hasn't changed clothes yet. Collins reviewed old camera records from the far sector. The footage was poor. But it showed Hayes on site from 11:00 p.m. to 1:00 a.m. Except the image during that window was washed out. Old film, Hayes explained. Equipment malfunctioned. I filed a report. Collins retrieved the report. It existed. But a technician reviewing the footage in 2005 made a critical point: those weren't random glitches. That was light aimed directly at the camera. A flashlight. Or vehicle headlights. Then Collins found a buried assignment order. Captain Hayes was designated as the officer responsible for special cargo. Signed by General Robert Sutton. Dated March 1, 1990. That's when Collins understood, this wasn't a fuel theft story. It was a system. A pipeline. Where people became expendable. And Parker had seen it. Then something happened that shook even seasoned investigators. Miller's trial was scheduled for the following week. He agreed to a deal. He wanted the nightmares to end. But in court, his defense produced hospital records. On the night Miller supposedly strangled 2 soldiers, he was in surgery. Acute appendicitis. Operation time, 12:05 a.m. to 3:00 a.m. The surgeon confirmed it. The OR log. Signatures. Medical file. Miller could not have killed them. But he confessed. A psychiatrist explained, false memory under extreme pressure. Fear and guilt can build a story so vivid the mind accepts it as fact. Especially when the person is guilty of something else and believes they deserve punishment. The case collapsed. And Collins did what real investigators do. She returned to the minor details. Why that lubricant? Why the camera washout? Who could open a sealed well and reseal it? And why did the note say Officer M? That could mean Miller, or it could mean something else entirely. Collins ordered advanced enhancement and shadow analysis on the footage. The result was disturbing. The video showed a man in the captain's uniform. But the shadow angle was wrong. Astronomical data showed the moon that night was in the east. The shadow should fall west. In the footage, the shadow fell north. Meaning, the clip was recorded at a different time and inserted as an alibi. Professionally, coldly. Like someone trained not to guard, but to erase. Collins summoned Hayes for a second interview. He arrived with his wife and an attorney. I had an episode yesterday, he said. Doctor says no stress. Collins stayed calm. Almost polite. It was the kind of politeness that makes people either confess or break. You said you called your wife at midnight. Aaron nodded. Yes. Exactly 12 o'clock. We spoke 5 minutes. Collins pulled phone records. The call wasn't at 12 o'clock. It was at 12:47 a.m. Aaron went pale. I misremembered, it was a long time ago. Hayes tensed, like his heart wasn't weak, his plan was. Then Collins produced another piece of evidence. A notebook, hidden behind a garage panel. A March 14th entry in Aaron's handwriting, tonight everything gets decided. Daniel said, either we're rich or we're dead. I'm scared. Then the bank records arrived. An old deposit account under Aaron Hayes' name. Opened March 20th, 1990. Balance, $20,000. Cash deposit. Collins didn't raise her voice. Where did the money come from? Aaron broke. It was hush money, she said. He told me to take it and stay quiet, or we'd end up like those soldiers. Collins looked at her the way you look at someone who has lived inside a locked room for years and only now realizes the door might not be locked. What happened that night? Aaron cried, and then she spoke. Captain Hayes came to the base hospital around 1 a.m. He brought in a wounded man. It was Dylan Brooks. Still alive, but barely. Hayes claimed it was an accident. And then he asked, not to save him. Collins asked quietly, and you didn't treat him? Aaron whispered, I wanted to. But he threatened me. He said it was national security, that if I intervened, I'd be an accomplice. Brooks died within 20 minutes. What about Parker? Collins asked. He wasn't brought in, Aaron said. Daniel said Parker died immediately. Then Collins asked the question that ends every fake story, who killed them? Aaron looked at her husband. And said, he did. Hayes jumped up. She's lying. She's unstable. He started coughing, clutching his chest. The attorney demanded the interview stop. But Collins already knew where to look next. In Hayes' garage, behind a panel, they found Captain Hayes' personal journal. Entry dated March 14th, tonight I eliminate the problem. 2 saw too much. Order from above. Plan, lure to Hangar, remove, pin on Miller. Conflict is perfect. Then another line, one that drained the room of oxygen, contacts with 2 foreigners closed. Burial at the far strip. During that period, 2 men had arrived as translators attached to a humanitarian shipment. Their names appeared in paperwork. They never officially left. The threads tightened. This base wasn't just moving cargo. It was moving drugs. The white powder. The sealed crates. The immaculate manifests. The envelopes. The sudden money. And Parker filmed it. He didn't reach into someone's pocket. He reached into a system where pockets were power. Collins asked the final question, "Where are the bodies?" Hayes stayed silent. Aaron answered, trembling. Parker was burned in an incinerator used for medical waste. Hayes drove him there himself. He made sure nothing remained except an empty space in the records. He planned to burn Brooks too, but couldn't. Morning inspections started. Leadership arrived. The base shifted. So he buried Brooks on hospital grounds, beneath an old boiler foundation. They checked. Under that foundation, they found remains. DNA confirmed Dylan Brooks. When Hayes understood the game was over, he finally said the line people like him live by, "Yes, I did it." But it was in order. There was money. Big money. It was war. Collins answered evenly, "War doesn't erase murder. It just gives murder a uniform." Captain Hayes was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Aaron received a reduced sentence for concealment and complicity along with 15 years of fear no court can remove. Miller was cleared. He disappeared from public life, and people say he still suffers from one thing: he remembers what he didn't do, and he can't unsee what they forced him to believe. Major Walker died shortly after the verdict. Heart failure. Another period at the end of a case where everyone had a heart except the people who issued orders. Parker's remains were never recovered. Brooks was buried with full military honors. And Hangar 7? It became a museum. The irony is brutal: the place where people were erased is now displayed as history. The main exhibit is that photograph of 2 young men smiling in front of a plane, and the words on the back, "Last shift." If you stayed to the end, type one word in the comments, "Hangar." Just so I know you were here. Because the worst part isn't that evil exists. The worst part is how long it can stand in the shadows and look like ordinary duty.